Okay, it says it's recording.
Perfect.
Mr. Daniel Lawrence is on twice.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just figuring that out here.
Okay, hold on a second. You've been hacked. Hey, thanks for jumping on. And so now that this is recording, we'll get started. And yeah, so Abe, you're gonna rewatch this, and I apologize. You know how it's like when it won't go live for some reason, right? And what we do is we just keep on keeping on. And so thank you for those who have joined. We are going recording now, so I'm just going to start. And I'm just super excited to be on here today and co-host with the awesome Daniel Lawrence Lopez. He's an amazing person, and I've gotten to know these two gentlemen quite well in the past few years with different projects that we do in our community. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cynthia, and I work closely with Abe Brown. And for those of you who have been on these webinars before, you have seen my name pop up. I help moderate these chats, and Abe is unable to make it today. He's working on some amazing and exciting things to help other people and be of service. So me and Daniel, we're both going to be co-hosting today. So hi, Jenny. When you guys are hopping on, please say hi. I'm going to share my screen here and get us started. So just give me 1 second. I am learning how to navigate this and slide. Perfect. Share screen. This one. There. Okay, I think you can see here now. I'm going to close this chat. So thank you for joining us for this webinar. And as we know, COVID has changed our world in so many different ways. And a lot of us have either been affected by it not just physically, also mentally, emotionally. So Abe has been amazing with having these webinars, which are at no cost. He's also been reaching out to give people business resilience support calls to help in a time like this. And so it's just amazing to have this happen. And you've probably heard us share about this, that we may all be in the same storm. However, we ain't all in the same boat. And we can all say that, right? We're all going through something different. And it's easy to say, oh, I know how you feel. At the same time, it also helps serve another person. Say, I actually don't know how you feel, because to the core of things, because I'm not in the same situation. However, how can I help you get through this together? So I love how we have these webinars such that we can hear from different entrepreneurs and business individuals on how they're navigating through a time like this. So what's the solution? You know, conversations. Just exactly what we're going to do today is have heartfelt conversations and hear from Steve on really what he's been up to in a time like this. So Steve, I'm just honored to introduce you. Steve is a recognized restaurateur. Is that how you say it? He's been in the restaurant industry for more than 20 years. He's a chef. He's been in management, and you can see just all those great things that's listed here. Great restaurant that he runs, and that he's a managing partner at Smoke Infusion. I remember when he first said to us, oh, I'm not able to make it to this one meeting because I'm going to be going around checking out smoke houses, right? So this Steve is a guy who really does his research and puts his heart into everything that he does. He's also a managing partner at Minuteman Press in Okotoks, and all these different expanding opportunities that he's doing right now. And really, Steve is also about community. Everything that he does, it's about how do we bring community together and support them. So I'm excited to have Steve on here. And so that's Steve. And I'm going to introduce Daniel a little bit too before we jump to Steve, because Daniel's awesome too. Like, he comes from an amazing family. He's an entrepreneur himself. He's a senior financial advisor at Experior Financial Group, and he's been running webinars on lives as well to help support people through this time on how do we be financially wise in a time like this, and if we're not in a great space, how do we start taking steps to improve about that. So Daniel, thanks for co-hosting with me. You're amazing. I guess in a quick minute or two, can you just let us know more about who you are, you know, where you're from? I know you're, I believe, from Calgary here, because I see you here. We work together on different things. And just a little bit about what you do to help the community.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Calgary. My mom is from Guatemala, but my dad is from India. They've been here for the last 25 years or so. And I love business. I've been doing business since I don't know, man, like grade 3, grade 4. And part of what I do now, working as a financial advisor, really just helping people gain a better understanding of how does money work. I'm really, really strong advocate for financial literacy, because that is one of the things that I didn't learn in school, and I know like 99% of people didn't learn that in school. And so part of how I give back into the community is sometimes I speak at schools, speak at different events, and just help um, just help people understand where they at, where do they want to go, and how do they get to reach their financial goals. And so that's a little bit about myself, and I constantly want to surround myself with other entrepreneurs like you guys, and just be in that environment, because that's, for me, that's the only way I can grow, right? It's super easy to be stuck in your own little bubble, but when you expand outside of that, big things happen. So I'm excited to be on this call, and thank you Cynthia for doing this with me.
Yeah, for sure. And so what I do really when I say I work closely with Abe Brown is that I'm the Director of Client Experience with Momentum Coaching. I also support Abe with the CCF, the Certified Coaches Federation, and also the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise coaching program. And so really what we are about is supporting other people in getting where they want to go. And outside of that, I manage a music school here in the city. I'm a mom. I also run my own business. So let's see here. Got next slide here. So in the midst of chaos, there's also opportunities. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. And so of course, we're not in a time of war of where we are now. However, it's really about what's happening in the mind and whether we choose to see opportunity or we choose to see defeat. And so I'm gonna stop share. See if I know how to do this. Stop share. Perfect. And we'll move on to those other areas after. And so, Daniel, what I'll do is just hand it off to you to start having a conversation with Steve, because Steve is who we are here to listen to today.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So, Steve, I mean, even tell us, what is it, like, how did you get started as an entrepreneur? Like, where did that journey start? And what did that look like? And then just take us through that journey from little Steve to little Steve, and then to big Steve. What was that like? Like, what got you started? And just tell us that journey.
Yeah. So thanks, Cynthia, for that intro. Super awesome. Super honored to be on this webinar. One of the first webinars I've done, but I've definitely done some speaking with Abe in the past. So always a great time, always great people involved in the group. So appreciate that. Super cool that Daniel is actually interviewing with me, because he and I go way back when he was in high school, and seeing his journey grow over the last 2.5 years in the financial sector has been super cool. For me, I don't think I ever wanted to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't something that I was passionate about. I grew up in a custom home building company with my family, so my dad was an entrepreneur. And what I loved about that is I saw how much he worked, how hard he worked, but he always made time for his family. Anything, any big games, any recitals, any graduations, it was blocked off in his calendar. He was there, he supported us. And I thought that was cool, but I saw how hard he worked. I also saw how much fun he had, right? He was able to do vacations, we did family trips, everything like that. So I actually was into law, believe it or not, when I first was a child. I wanted to be a police officer, and then I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to be a fireman, and then I wanted to be a lawyer again. So then I went to school to be a lawyer, and definitely was not my jam. I was asked kindly not to return to the program after my first year. So much reading, holy moly. Long story short, through university, my mom basically said, you're getting a piece of paper with your name on it. I don't care if it's underwater basket weaving. I've been in hospitality my whole life. I've helped my grandparents when they were hosting parties. I've run nightclubs, bars, restaurants. So I found hospitality management. It was the closest thing I could find to underwater basket weaving. And I excelled at it. And my dad said, hey, you should get your red seal as a chef. I said, no, I don't want to be a chef. I'm good with hospitality in the management sector. And then what transitioned me from being an employee to an employer was the corporate carrot. And although I've had a very lucrative career as an employee, there was always a corporate carrot, and you're always chasing it, and you're always trying to go above and beyond. With the faith background that I have, we do everything with excellence. My dad literally beat that into me as a child and through school. I'd come home with a 98. He'd say, where's the other 2%? My mom's all happy, I got a 98. My dad's like, where's the other 2%? Difference between A and B is presentation. And I see Tina is on. I don't know if that's my sister Tina or if that's on in Calgary. So in the chat, you can let us know if it's Tina, my sister, then my dad's probably watching and my mom's probably laughing. So not my sister. So it's not my sister and my parents aren't laughing. But as a faith person, doing everything with excellence, I was at a chain restaurant, sous chef, and they kept giving me a new week, a new month that I would be the head chef. And when I was going through school for my red seal, it got to a point where I was just like, I need to go out on my own. I had tried a couple of things prior to that and talked with my parents, put some business plans together, and I bought my first restaurant.
And so with that, like what would you say were some like really key things that you focused on, even from, you had the idea, getting to hospitality, to buying your first restaurant? What were some of those things? I'll give you some context why I'm asking even this question is because from what I've noticed, a lot of the time when the interviews are being done, you'll ask the business owner and say, hey, what are you doing now? Like, what's your day-to-day looking like and stuff, which is fine. It's not a bad question, but it's not a relevant question, because for me, just getting started on this journey, I mean, I can't, like, what you do now is very different than, what I'm doing now on the come up, right? Just getting things started. So I'm just that way people have the right context, and when you answer, they can actually relate to it, and even some practical things they can implement right away. So when you were getting started, those first few years, what were some of those key things that you really focused on and that you did even on a daily basis that helped you push through, that helped you really develop the business to where it is today?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things for me was mentorship. I've been blessed in my life to have groups of people. I'm very selective on who I allow to speak into my life. There's a lot of people that speak about my life and very few that speak into my life. And that's because I want to make sure that they have my best interest in mind. They understand where I'm coming from. 90% of the people that speak into my life business-wise are still Christians. So they understand the faith side, and some of the mindset that I come to with business. Mentorship has been huge. As a young man, I think I know it all. You can ask my dad. We had many arguments about that. As I grew up and matured, I realized I know nothing. And I love knowing nothing, and I love hiring people that can fill the gaps that I don't have, and having mentors that will speak in and speak honestly. If I'm not holding my end of the bargain, then they'll tell me. The other piece for me was my faith. When I started with the Find in 16, I had said it was a ministry, it's my ministry, all this Christianese stuff, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, cool, so what scripture are you using? Touche. And it was so interesting because I didn't search for the scripture that I stand on today, which is Isaiah 28:16. It was shown to me. And I'll tell you, there have been many conversations and yelling matches between me and God saying, anyone that believes in this will not fail. Yet I have had many conversations about that. I take that piece, I take that faith, and I take my mentorship. And that's what's created my ability to sustain and overcome some of those challenges. Full transparency, it didn't mean that there weren't times where I had the key in the door and thought about leaving it in there. I very distinctly and vividly can remember 2 times with the Fine Diner, and once with Smoking Fusion, that I was locking up and legitimately thought about leaving the key in the door and walking away. I didn't have a personal guarantee or an indemnity, so I wasn't liable, which sounds awful. But when you're at that stage, when you're at that, you're looking at your bank account and you're looking at your business account and there's no money anywhere, and it's just a mindset that you can get trapped in. And I didn't leave my key in. I called one of my mentors. I said, hey, this is what I'm battling with. And it took a lot for me to actually start opening up to my mentors. But once I did, and I was able to have that lifeline, for lack of a better term, and I'd call them and say, hey, this is what I'm battling. First thing they did is they prayed with me. They asked me where it's coming from. They asked open-ended questions. And the reality is they didn't actually give me any answers. All they did was ask the questions that I didn't want to ask about myself in the situation. And from there, I got my own revelation on how to move forward. But without them, I wouldn't have had that mindset or that mind shift to think of it from a different perspective.
Okay, so Steve, so then question, like even going back, that's powerful. So even tracing it all the way back, because I have a lot of friends too that are getting started that don't have any mentors, right? They're by themselves, and it is a dog eat dog world, right? How do you find a mentor? Like, do you go on Facebook? Do you Google what are those first steps to take to find, and not just any mentor, because there's a lot of mentors, but how do you find someone that can truly pour into you? Like, what are those steps? Like, what would you say? Like, how do you find a mentor?
A lot of coffees,
Okay.
a lot of networking events.
Yeah.
But truly, I go to different networking events, and from there, if I see someone that intrigues me, I'll have a business card. I'll see if they're willing to have a coffee with me. I think more importantly than how do I find my mentors is how do I choose my mentors. So mentors, like you said, are all over the place. And you can go on social media, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Kijiji probably and find mentors or coaches or anything like that. I'm a coach as well, right? My wife and I have a coaching company as well. As it said in my profile, I'm a serial entrepreneur. But for me, my mentors are people that are where I want to be, not where I'm at now.
Mm.
I think that that's so important. So I'll repeat it. My mentors are where I want to be, not where I am now. Because if my mentors are where I am, how do they speak life into me? How do they grow me? How do they stretch me? How do they empathize? None of them sympathize with me. But they all empathize. They understand where I'm coming from, but then will give me hard truths. But they need to be further than where I am. It doesn't mean that they're millionaires, although I do know a few, and that's not anything. It's a number. It's a decimal. I look for people that are further ahead than I am, and then do they have the right character traits? So for me, it's very important that they're of good character. It's important that they are above reproach. It's are they honest? Are they integral? Do they have a good family life? And it sounds interesting because now I'm getting into some personal. Do they have a good family life? Well, why is that important? Because as an entrepreneur, being married, what I do at work directly affects my wife. And when we have kids, it will directly affect my kids. So if I have a mentor that has a broken family, and I'm not saying anything about broken families, unfortunately, I know it happens. I get it. I don't get it, actually. I empathize to it. But I don't want to be one of those statistics that I was chasing the dollar, that I was chasing the dream or whatever, and made my personal relationships and my family suffer. So they have to have a good family life. They have to be of good character, and they have to be further than where I am. And those are the three main things. How I find those people, it's in my sphere of influence. So as I meet people, as I'm in business, I should say 75% of the time I have business cards on me, which is ironic owning a print shop. But I just forget to fill my wallet, which reminds me, actually, because I'm out in my wallet. Thanks, Daniel.
Of course, no problem.
But how do I find them? I go to networking events. I prioritize. My wife and I, when we got married, agreed that I was not allowed. She gave room for me to grow my network. It's not a permissional thing. It's not an authority thing. She understands the more I connect with people, the more I can grow my businesses, our businesses. So my wife's part of Minuteman Press with Us. She's a partner in all my businesses because she's my partner. So through those networking events, and then I'll talk to the host. Hey, what do you know about this person? Before I even go and have a coffee with them, I'll ask the host, hey, what do you know about this person? Oh, they just came off the street. Okay. Social media, Google.
Right.
Where can I find out about this person? LinkedIn. Oh, they don't have the best character. Okay, not going to have coffee with them, right? Through the networking events, through my community events. So I do a lot of philanthropic work as much as I can with the time that I have. And I give back, and through that, I've met some great people, some influential people as well. And so through that, I've been able to gain different mentors. You know, I'm the president of our Calgary Chefs Association, and met a restaurateur, very successful, and he's where I want my restaurants to be financially and success-wise, not necessarily the approach. And I said, hey, do you mind? I asked. I think that's the other big key. Ask. Ask and you will receive. Seek, you will find. Knock, it shall be opened unto you, right? 9 times out of 10, we find that right person, or that person that we think we want to be mentored by, and we talk to everybody around them but them. Hey, I really want Abe to be my coach. Hey, I think Abe is awesome. Hey, Abe is a world changer. Hey, do you think Abe would coach me? Why don't you ask him? Only Abe can answer if Abe has room in his calendar to take on another client. So if you don't ask him or take on another disciple or another mentee, right? It's not always paid. My mentors don't get paid. My coach Abe does. sometimes,
Mhm.
but ask. And
Mhm.
that's how I found my mentors, and that's how I continue to find my mentors.
That's part. Okay, so then then I got another question. I got a bunch of questions, but uh, one of them is, how do you? Okay, now you got your mentor, right? How about choosing the right environment, right? Because there's some environments where, whether it's family, whether it's, you're part of, community groups or church groups, um, if an environment isn't exactly where you want to go in life or what you want to achieve, like, what do you do? Do you stay there? Do you have a choice? Like, how do you find the right environment? How do you find the right people?
In a mentorship mindset.
No, just so not mentorship, but just in general, right? So as an entrepreneur, how do I surround myself with the right people, whether it's mentors, but as well as, colleagues, friends, associates? How do I find the right people and be in the right environments that are, conducive to, what it is that I want to do and where I want to go?
Yeah, so a lot of that is choice. Uh, we all have the power to choose, and we get to choose our association, and we get to choose our communities for the most part. Uh, Sometimes we are trapped in different situations and different relationships that we can't get out of, and uh, I can't speak on that because I'm not
Hmm.
qualified to. Uh, for me, I choose the environments that I go into. So I might get invited to a networking event. I'll go in. Over the years, I've learned to be able to feel the room fairly quickly. What that means is when I walk into a room at a networking event, the first thing I do after I register is I scan the room and I look at the people and I see how they're dressed. I'm not being prejudiced, okay? But I look how they're dressed. How are they presenting themselves?
Hmm.
Who are they with? If there's pockets of all dudes and pockets of all females, not a bad thing, not necessarily what I want because I'm an inclusive person, right? If I go to a networking event and people are in sweatpants and ripped shirts and ripped jeans, nothing against ripped jeans, just in a business networking mindset,
Hmm.
as someone speaking into me and my businesses and finding the right environments, that's not for me, right? So I'll walk in, I'll say hi to whoever invited me to that event, have a drink, whatever, and I do small talk. I leave, and that's it. I'll go into something like the Business Connects that we used to do before COVID happened, and I'll scan the room. And I already know 2 or 3 people that I want to connect with. And yes, it's very superficial. And some might say it's judgmental,
Hmm.
but at first, that's how I approach. And then through conversation, I decide. Sometimes people approach me, someone I wouldn't have approached. Have a chat with them. Oh, cool. Yeah, we have some things in common. But I'm very careful on what events I go to.
Hmm.
I do a lot of research on the events before I go and decide if it's one that I want to go to. If you've invited me to a couple events, Daniel, and there was one I said, you know what, I don't think it's for me. Thank you so much
Hmm.
for the invite, but I don't think it's for me. And I
Yeah.
think that it's not a great use of my time.
Hmm.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll let you know when there's another one. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That's great, Steve. And I'm going to jump in here quickly because there's something that you said about families. And someone on here mentioned about, thank you for clarifying your comment on good family and broken families, because really who we are is like, we are the common denominator in all areas of our life, personally and professionally. And I love how you talk about environment as well. And thank you for asking that, Daniel, because there's so many times where Abe talks about this all the time, and other business leaders, that there are controllables and there are also uncontrollables. So sometimes what's happening in our family, even though it's a moment to moment choice, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I would say to any business leader out there, if your family is just has lots of dysfunctions, every family is dysfunctional in some way, including my own. However, are we choosing to continue to grow through it, or are we going to choose to stay stagnant or decay in that relationship. So really taking a look at how are we going to choose to be in our environments, and I love that. And so for this last part, let's talk about the environments of what's happening in business through this time of COVID, right? So many different perspectives going on. There's so many businesses out there that are struggling, and yet there are some that are being innovative and thriving through this time. And so let's transition to that. Like, what have you been experiencing and hearing about others' experience through this time of COVID when it comes to business?
I hate to, that's kind of the company line now for the world, is we're in unprecedented times. Reality is we get to make a choice on how COVID's going to affect us to an extent. There are factors and circumstances, aka finances, landlords, those things. I had mentioned earlier that there was one time with Smoke and Fusion that I had thought about closing the doors, and I had talked to, he was my best man at my wedding, one of my mentors, he speaks into my life. I sat in his office, I said, hey, I think I'm gonna sell. I think I'm gonna close the restaurant. It's just not the right timing. And then COVID hit. And I was in my quiet time and I was just like, is this the right move? What do we do? Talked to a couple other people, and COVID hit, and ironically, like most people, the people around me were very negative. The world's ending. This is whatever. I know this is potentially live and recording, so we'll watch the language, but a lot of colorful expressions of what COVID was. And I sat back and I've watched more news in the last few months than I have in the last few years as a business owner, because I had to figure out how to navigate through these times. And what I told our team that we were able to keep on was, this is a great opportunity for us to make a difference. And I made the decision that we weren't closing. Both my operations were considered, my print shop was considered an essential service. And with the restaurant, because we could do curbside pickup and curbside contactless pickup and delivery, we were able to stay open. The crazy thing is we got busier with our takeout program. And then anyone that follows us on social media, we did give a Family a Day giveaway campaign. So it cost us a few $1,000s, but we actually gave care packages away to different people in need. And I truly believe, whether you call it karma, whether you call it faith, whatever you want to call it, you do good, you get good. And there is no rhyme or reason for either of my businesses to be operating and doors open right now. On the surface. In the secular, there's no reason. We applied for funding, we applied for grants, we took advantage of the CERB. A lot of what I did was, I said, I'm not going to be a victim of COVID-19, and my businesses and my team aren't going to be victims to it. So what do I do as the business owner to make this move forward? How do I keep people employed? And there was a lot of pressure on me, and I was blessed because my wife, Emma, was supporting me along the way, giving me space when I needed space just to decompress, being there to talk it out if I needed a sounding board. But we found so many different avenues through grants, through loans, and I'm not saying get loans that you can afford.
Yep.
Sorry, I just see my friend that's a financial advisor. Loans? But the $40,000 that the federal government was putting out, I actually will make $10,000 for both businesses, the way it's structured. And I know that my businesses will be able to pay back that $30,000 per business by the deadline. So for me, it wasn't and there was no interest. So, I mean, there was a lot of positives to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure that I'm going to get audited because the government now knows, but that's part of the course of entrepreneurship. But the biggest thing with COVID is and COVID's not over. I just want to remind people that, yes, phase 2 of the relaunch is tomorrow. We're super excited. We go back to full capacity, but not perceived full capacity. What I would say as we continue through this COVID is choose, are you going to be a victim of COVID or are you going to be an overcomer of COVID? And if you're going to be an overcomer, you're going to need support. You're going to need people in your corner. Find those people, find those coaches, find those mentors, and push through.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So tell us about your printing company and what the journey with that has been like.
Oh man, that was an interesting one. I know nothing about, well, I do now. I knew nothing about print when this idea came. I was actually at a gathering at Abe's house for New Year's, I believe it was. Met a gentleman there. Again, how do I find people? How do I network? I trust the people that Abe would invite into his home. So started a conversation with them. He had a company he was looking to sell. I didn't want to buy his company because that seemed a little messy. So I did some research. It's a franchise. Did some research, reached out. And then in October, I was talking with my wife. Since I've been married, every decision that we make, every decision that I make for business, we make. Because again, same thing I said to her. I said, if we go down this road, this is the time commitment that it's going to take from me. This is a sacrifice that our relationship will have with me starting a new business. So did the interviews, did the meetings, great opportunity. We were able to find the financing to do it. Went trained, and I had thought about a printing company years ago. There's a gentleman that I know has a very successful franchise of seafood restaurants. Y'all can deduce which one that is. And I try not to name drop as much as I remember. Yeah. And the interesting thing is my friend works there, good friend of mine, and his business owns other businesses, so he buys from himself. So this is in business what we call pipelines or horizontal integration, if you want to get super technical. So I was like, well, you know what? I've spent X amount of dollars in printing, thousands of dollars of printing a year. If I own my own print shop, that would come back to me. Maybe I'll get a paycheck. Mythbuster, as an entrepreneur, you don't always get paid. You get paid last.
Yeah.
So we did the research, everything worked out, and we decided to buy an existing print shop, convert it into a Minuteman press in Okotoks. And it's actually been what's been sustaining Emma and I personally over the last couple months, along with all the other financial things that we do.
Wow, that's really cool. Okay, then I want to quickly go off of one thing you said with and that's a powerful story, Steve. One of the things you said was, as an entrepreneur, you pay yourself last. There's some myths, right? Especially now that everyone's looking for a side hustle and things to do. There's some myths about starting your own business and becoming an entrepreneur. Like, it's a lot. Like for you, what would you say would be common things that you've seen that people believe about business people and entrepreneurs that aren't true?
Oh, you get all the time in the world. You're your own boss. You have freedom. You get to control your calendar. You're not accountable to anybody. I could go on and on and on. I feel like I could do a vlog about this. How about I just give you some truths?
Okay, let's do it.
Plus some myths about entrepreneurship. And then I'm going to go to the positive, and then we'll go to the next question.
Okay.
And I say this caveat with, I love what I do. I love my job. I love my life. I love what Emma and I are building and the impact that we have. Myth number one, you don't control your calendar. Business dictates and controls your calendar. To a degree. There was a point before COVID where last year, Emma and I traveled, well, I traveled for business. Emma and I traveled 6 times to visit family in Ontario. We did a late honeymoon and we went on a family Christmas cruise and a couple other things. So anyways, so yeah, at that point, business is really good. Cynthia, Daniel, and I, before everyone got on, were joking around that during COVID, I've worked harder in the last few months than I have in the last couple of years, because when times are slow, we have to pick up the slack. We minimize our expenses, we increase our labor of ourselves, and that's how we get paid. So when I say we don't get paid, so myth number one, controlling your time. Until you get to a threshold, and there is a threshold in every business, that is very true. Absolutely, you would have control over your calendar. Until you get to that threshold, the business controls your calendar. Myth number two, business owners don't get paid. I argue that business owners that don't know how to put a business plan together or have not gotten financial coaching don't get paid. I get paid every month. Sometimes we have to cut how much a little bit, but every business owner should get paid if your finances are done properly. What does that mean? That means that when you do your business plan and you're asking for investment dollars, whether it's a loan, investment, partners, whatever it is, you have to figure out, what do you need that year? And different people say 3 months, 6 months. I say a year. I put my salary into my business plan, into my pro forma to potential investors, and I put my salary for a year into that. So I know that I'm making what I need to pay my mortgage, to pay my bills, to have a lifestyle, that certain standard of life. The business owners that don't make money or don't get paid, I argue, and this is controversial, but I argue didn't have the financial backing, it's called cash flow, to be able to pay themselves.
Interesting.
So myth, business owners get paid last. If you do it the way I did, we actually get paid first, in a sense. But I don't draw a paycheck. Everything comes, and that's too long to get into. Y'all can reach out to me if you want to learn about corporate structure. Myth number 3 is you're your own boss. You are not your own boss. As an employee, it was so much easier for me to have 1 or 2 supervisors that I reported to. If someone else did something, I don't know, ask the supervisors. I am responsible to my investors. I am responsible to my clients or my guests or my customers. I am responsible to my people. So my accountability, everyone thinks, oh, as a business owner, you don't have it. I have so much more accountability because everyone's looking at me, asking me for answers, asking me for direction. Again, when you get to a certain threshold in your business, and your profit loss pro forma statement will tell you what that looks like. It will tell you when that freedom or perceived freedom will hit, but you're not your own boss. If you have partners, your partner's your boss. If you have investors, your investors are your boss. Because I will tell you right now, any investor, if you're not making money after a certain period of time that your pro forma showed. So for example, my restaurant won't make money for 3 years. But the investment dollars and the cash flow that I asked for allowed that sustainability. But if the percentages aren't coming in line, Guess who I'm responsible to? Guess who's telling me what to do? My investors, to an extent, depending on how your agreements are. But that's a whole nother ballgame. I think those are your three biggest myths. You control your calendar. Business owners don't make money or don't get paid, and you're your own boss. And I'm just watching time. There's a lot more, but
definitely. That's man, that's great, because I know there's a lot of people that want to get into the business world, and it seems like it's a very a magical place. You walk in, you control your time. If you don't work 4 hours a week, you can do that. Follow Tim Ferriss, and it's like sweet, right?
yeah.
But
I could also go on a TV show, find a girl on the TV show, get married, and live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And then 9 months later, you read that they all got divorced and everything else, right? What you see on TV, what you see in the news is what I say is fake news. If you want to be an entrepreneur, meet other entrepreneurs, get their testimonies, get their stories, get their journey. And Daniel, you've done that over the last 2.5 years, and understand what you're actually getting into. Because it's not for the faint of heart.
That's powerful, man. That was good. Thank you. That was really good. Awesome. Cynthia, I think, did you have a question you wanted to ask as we sort of wrap this thing up here? Sorry, you're
I'm muted.
There you go.
I was like talking to myself. Yeah, Steve, you've just gone through so much, and thank you for sharing about the journey, the myths, the obstacles that you have overcome, and the whole thing about corporate structure, because that's the thing about business that people get lost in, and so doing the research, being around people who know what they're doing, and being open to ask is a great characteristic of a leader. And that's what I see in you, because you ask questions, right? If we don't know, we ask, and if we know it all, we don't learn anything. So thanks for sharing that. And so to wrap it up a bit, can you just tell us a little bit about where you're going in life, and then also with your businesses?
Yeah, so again, mindset. COVID, a lot of people are closing their restaurants or businesses, unemployed, different heartaches and hardships. And we're expanding our operation like crazy, right? And for me, I truly think it's a blessing. And I believe that it's part of seeking my faith first, and this is just part of the journey that I'm on. Our restaurants actually, so before COVID, a couple months, 6 weeks before COVID, I was thinking about closing the doors completely. And now we're taking Smoke Infusion and we're expanding it in the Granary Road Market down in the foothills, just 10 minutes southwest of Spruce Meadows. And we're opening Smoke and Barbecue, which is going to be a kiosk booth. We open Father's Day weekend, so June 19th is our first day open there. We're also running the cafe there. So we're actually expanding our operations. I laughed with our lead designer at our print shop. On Monday, we had a very short schedule of work, and I'm working probably about 70 to 80 hours this week now to catch up on everything, because everything just flooded in. And it happened after Kenny announced that phase 2 was going to happen this weekend, not next weekend, right? So where we're going, we want to empower others. Most importantly, all my businesses, we're building the next generation. I'm blessed with my team. I have a phenomenal team across the board in all facets of our businesses. And that allows me to be out in the community. I mean, I'm going to share that Daniel and I've mentored Daniel for a number of years through business and through life. And he asked me one day, he's like, how do you have all this time? I said, because I have good people. I have good people that I trust, that can take care of the day-to-day operations. My signature says that I'm the managing partner. I hate managing because it's a terrible word, but for investors and different growth opportunities that I'm doing, it looks good, so I put it on my business card. I should actually change it to the development partner, because that's what I do. I develop businesses, I develop people, and I develop concepts. I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses. I'm not an operator. Well, but you own your own business. Yes, I pay people that love to operate. I don't love operating. I love vision in my spirit, put it on paper, put it in a pro forma, it works, I'm doing it, it doesn't work, I'm not doing it. I get it going, and then I need someone to take over once we've taken off. My co-pilot will take over, my operating partner, and they fly the plane. I'll get it up into the air. That's a really good analogy. I'm writing that down.
It's good. It's okay. It's recorded, Steve. Don't worry about it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you can go back and listen to it. So because we weren't able to stream this on live because I got that crazy spinning thing, basically, to close this off, any questions here? Yeah, so we have a comment from Terry. Something that struck me was Steve's early journey, recognizing that he's not doing well and why, and having the courage to walk away from it. That's great. Awareness, right? I always say ABC, awareness before change. And that Steve has a powerful aptitude and running with it. Perfect. And thanks for sharing that, Terry, because definitely it's, learning as an entrepreneur when to let go of something, when to hold on, when to push through, and just having that awareness of self in a situation. And so as we wrap up, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to be on here, be real about how your journey has been. And Daniel, thank you so much for being a co-host. You're amazing.
Of course.
And I just look forward to more partnerships. So Steve, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how would someone do that?
If you want to get a hold of me directly, Cynthia can put this in the chat box. My email is steve@cornerstonegroupcanada.ca. It's super long, so we'll type it out, put it in the chat box. I don't give my cell number out. We'll email back and forth. We'll have a couple coffees, and then if the opportunity arises and you get my cell number, awesome. You can also call our main head office at 403-938-3424. They can direct you to me any which way. My cell is business, but it's also personal, and we don't want it ringing all hours of the day. After 6:30, if I don't know the number, I don't answer it, and that's just an agreement my wife and I have, just to set some boundaries in business. But you can also visit our website, smokeinfusion.com, okotoks.minutemanpress.ca. I think those are my only two. I have more coming, so I have.
Perfect. No worries. So as I see if I can wrap this up and let everybody know what's up and coming, can you type those websites out on the chat? That'd be super helpful. I'm gonna see here. So anything else you want to add, Daniel, before I move on?
I think this is really good. I got some notes as well for myself, and I hope everyone on here got some value. I think it was, this hour just flew by. I know with Steve and I, when we have conversations, it's 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes, and it just goes like that. So this is good. Thank you, Steve, for taking your time to, especially now out of your busy schedule, to do this. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
So one note on that before you wrap up, Symphony. Busy schedule is a mindset. I don't have a busy schedule. I'm not too busy for anything. I have a full schedule, but I choose how to use that time. So don't ever think that anyone is too busy to do anything. Are you prioritizing it? So Abe asked me something. He's like, I know you're busy. I said, you know what? I'm not busy. I didn't prioritize my week properly to get this to you. And that's the truth of it. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's how we choose to spend that 24 hours.
100%.
No one is too busy. It's what do you prioritize in your world and in your life as important.
Mm.
Sorry, just side note.
No, I
That's good.
love that, right? So a lot of times, exactly, I'll catch myself say, oh yeah, it's been a busy day. And it's like, well, was it busy or was it productive?
Yeah.
Because I could be busy doing a ton of things, especially working from home. I could be busy working and then all of a sudden the dishes are calling me and then I'll be doing dishes or laundry. So yeah, have I been productive? And
Mm.
how are we actually taking care of our inner and outer health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually through this time? And so thanks for being on here. And I'm going to see if I can do this properly. Can you see my, let's see. Okay, yes, this is how slideshow. All right, can you see this where it says book a support call? I think
Yeah.
so. Cool. So what are the next steps for people on this call, or if you're watching later on a replay, you can definitely book a support call, right? Just contact me, Cynthia at momentumcoach.ca. You can also reach out to Steve, and then Daniel can type out his email address in the chat as well. And, you know, just reach out to us. You know, if you want to talk to Steve, you want to talk to Daniel, and you're watching a replay, and there's nothing in the chat screen, email me, Cynthia at momentumcoach.ca, and I'll be sure to pass on your message and connect you all. And so next week, we have the awesome Riza Santos on here, and she's going to be amazing. She's a Miss Universe Canada, Miss World Canada title holder. She's a management consultant, vice president of Argyle Fox Incorporated. She's been instrumental in both software project and sales cycles, and is also a corporate and market strategist. So she helps companies achieve their mandates by identifying opportunities, right? We're talking about how to use this time as opportunity. And so she helps to streamline operations and grow market share. Also, she was most recently featured for her corporate role in Yahoo Finance. So definitely join us next week. You can go to businessresilience.com to register and just share this. This is going to be a great time to learn from another fellow leader. And of course, we definitely want to acknowledge all the frontline workers who serve in our communities. So the doctors, nurses, grocery store workers, those who are out there supporting us through this time such that we can actually go get what we need to get, you know, and just, you know, to our teachers as well, who are like behind the scenes helping our kids. Other than that, stop share. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to Abe Brown for trusting Daniel and myself to run this webinar on your behalf. Again, thank you, Steve, for being on here. Any last words before we jump off?
I think just to end with some encouragement is once you have your community, once you have your mentor, your coach, if you have a concept, run with it. Money is money. Money comes and goes. So if you have something, write it down on paper, start talking to people that you trust about it, and start developing it. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Next best time is today. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, please don't sit back idly. Take that action step. Put it on paper. Once it's on paper, it's more committed. Start having those conversations with people that you trust, and then see where that takes you. But you have to take that first step.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. Thank you, Daniel. And we'll see you all next time. I'm going to stop recording.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.